May the words of my mouth and the meditation of all our hearts be acceptable to you, loving God. Amen. Good morning. That was a toughie. It was a really hard one to understand, and you feel like you're just being told off. So I thought I'd give you an explanation that I would give to my children. Can you tell me what some of your first words that you or your children ever said? Perhaps they were mama or papa. I know one of my daughter's first words was more. You probably also learned to say the word no pretty early on as well. Did you know that often no was the first word for many of us that we learned to say? And one of the reasons that the word no was learned so quickly is that we heard it so often. Because we learned it a lot as we were learning about the world and how to move through it. I bring this up because Jesus is telling his disciples no about certain things in today's gospel. But what he's saying no to might surprise us. He tells the disciples no to being so angry that they can't or won't forgive someone. He tells them no to wanting something so badly that they stop being thankful for the things that they have. He tells them no to leaving friendships so that they can be friends with other people. And he tells them no to trying to get people to believe their words. Instead, he says their yes should just be yes, and their no should just be no. So let me repeat what Jesus was teaching his disciples, but in the form of one long question. Would you want to learn from someone who calls you names, insults you, is so angry at you that they can't forgive you, stops being friends with you to make friends with other people, but then tries really hard to make you think that what they have said is really important? Would you ever listen to that person? No way, right? Which is why Jesus is telling his disciples not to do those things, because he wants people to be able to hear what the disciples have to say. Jesus wants the invitation to live God's better way to be heard. And guess what? At least some of the disciples listened to Jesus. We know that the disciples listened because we're still talking about Jesus' instruction today, 2,000 years later. And in the same way Jesus' instructions worked for the disciples, they can work for us too. By encouraging others with our words, by forgiving others, by sharing God's love with people around us, we show others that God's way looks way better, just like Jesus and the disciples did. And we do look after others. It is our way of being God's light and salt in the world. We have been focusing on our parish mission action plan for the last few weeks. And I understand Vicar Nick explained our parish mission priorities last week. Above all, communication is a central theme and an essential element for the mission to happen effectively in our parish community and with our mission partners. A year of growth in our digital community, growth in the care of creation, growth in our work with Victory Church, and growth in our family church. Please remember that by having committed to a parish mission action plan to grow stronger in our connections with the communities and the world, we still create amazing opportunities to help our Christian neighbors and the world around us. And today we focus on our Pacifica brothers and sisters in Tonga. Today, our mission table is raising money for St. Andrew's Anglican High School in Tonga. In the past, Simon and Rachel Tipping have come to talk about their work with the Hornsby Pacific Education Trust, and especially about their work in Tonga. But they were unable to be with us today, so I'm endeavoring to share the news and to encourage us to remember Tonga, and especially St. Andrew's, in our prayers and with our donations, and by purchasing at the mission table. So, the points of interest from their newsletter. After 3 years of not being able to visit Tonga, Simon and Rachel Tipping spent 2 weeks in September last year visiting St. Andrew's High School in Nuku'alofa. They thank us for our ongoing support through donations, our love and prayers for the school, and assure us that all of these are most appreciated by the students and staff. The past 4 years have been difficult ones for St. Andrew's School. Starting in 2019, there were severe financial difficulties, which led to a loss of confidence by the staff, and the principal and several teachers left the school. Tonga's borders were then closed for 2 years of COVID pandemic, during which time things were not going so well at the school. Then came the eruption and tsunami on 15th of January 2022, an underground volcano in the Pacific Ocean's Tongan archipelago called Hunga Tonga Hunga erupted violently. The blast ranked a 6 on the Volcanic Explosive Index, making it the most violent eruption anywhere in the world since Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines in 1991. A tour around Tongatapu was sobering, and all the resorts which were there were completely demolished by the tsunami. And that was followed by the actual arrival of COVID in Tonga. All of these events caused hardship for many families, with many parents of the school losing their incomes. The roll has gone down to 250 from 450 in 2019. Because of the lockdowns and the disruptions, the school wasn't able to get underway until May of 2022. This has caused huge disruption in the education programs in the school. While Simon and Rachel were there last September, the Form 6 students began camping at the school, an effort to make up for lost time for their external examinations, which were looming in November. The school has had a fresh start with the employment of Lasana Latu, who came with a wide background in education, including being the DP of Tonga High School, holding positions in the Ministry of Education and at the Teachers College, and 2 new board members who are both ex-students of the school, who bring their professional and business skills with faithful commitment to the school. The good news: the Hornsby Trust, through donations alone, was able to pay the fees of 81 needy students, as well as 7 tertiary students. A highlight of their time in Tonga was a lovely evening with 6 of these 7 sponsored tertiary students over dinner. They were bright, positive, and excited about their studies and their futures. Of the 6, 1 was at Teachers College, 2 at the Tupou Tertiary Institute in Nuku'alofa, and 3 at the University of South Pacific in Suva, Fiji. It truly reinforces the positive responses that scholarships for tertiary student offers. The Trust was also able to send money for desktop computers mid-year, and when there was an urgent need. And at this visit, they were able to give the heads of departments laptop computers and a large quantity of textbooks. Also, visual art supplies and home economic resources. And to the Industrial Arts Department, they were able to hand over a large quantity of tools which had been gathered over the past 10 years of visits by voluntary groups. The gratitude of the school, board, and families was overwhelming. And they ask us to pass on their thanks to all of us for our support of the school over many years. And we need to keep them in our prayers and to continue to support them as best we can. Thanks be to God.